All right. So David Marsh, I know you through the NABLL. You were the Spike Consulting. You partnered up with the NABLL. But so I got to actually see you at nationals with your son walking around. Let's start there. Like, how cool was nationals that you were able to like bring your son? He gets out on the floor. You guys are watching, your highlights and stuff. I mean, that must have been a blast for you and him to kind of, get out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, unbelievable experience. One, just being in Utica, being on the blue floor, blue turf, and being at nationals, just being a part of that was, simply amazing. Having my son there also, I mean, um, intensified or multiplied the experience, the joy of the experience for me. Just having him in the atmosphere, uh, is I can't really put it into words. To me, it's just an invaluable experience.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. I think
just the
that's
community.
yeah, what they do
Mhm.
best there is they really kind of embrace your team runs your way. Like there's a bunch of young guys out there shaking hands. There's other teams who take it a little more serious. We talked for a second. That Westminster Wild team, though, I mean, they have a very unique style. They don't really have a coach. They just kind of go out there and play. They seem like they're just having fun and are just amazingly talented lacrosse players. I mean, what'd you think getting to play against them? I mean, your division is that competitive? So you guys are always playing against pretty top level teams compared to some of the other divisions. But I mean, to get to play against the three-time champs.
Yeah, I think for us, we've been to the big dance before in a different league. We had a different outcome in the IBLA being champs, and so for us, it wasn't unfamiliar territory. Um, and for me, and this is what I also teach my son, you want to play the best. Like you want to be the best. You want to get the most out of life, out of sport. You want to be in the room with the best and have a chance to compete with the best. So for us, it was an awesome opportunity to do just that. So big tip of the cap to the Westminster crew. I got to speak to a couple of those guys. Shout out Hunter Davis. Shout out their media guy. Really, really fine people. They play the game the right way. They play fast. They play hard. And it's good, hard, clean, fast box. Which is what I coach, what I teach. Good, hard, fast, clean lacrosse. So they really exemplify the culture and the right spirit of the game. So that experience was A1. Not the outcome that you were looking for, but the experience was definitely what you're looking for when you want to play next level box.
Yeah,
When you want to grow the culture of the game, when you want to do things the right way. Matchups like that are part of how you do that for sure.
100%. And I mean, that kind of leads us right into what started me wanting to get a hold of you. So I seen the spiked consulting stuff on the NABLL, and as somebody who has dealt with psychiatrists and counselors and stuff, I really understand the importance of the mental preparation. But so we only talked about this for like half a second before. You're a full-time psychiatrist?
Um, yeah, no. So yes, no, yes, no.
Okay.
I'm a therapist by trade. I don't
Okay.
deal with medications, but yeah, I'm a therapist by trade.
All right.
Um, and that's in large part what pays my bills. I wear a few different hats, but that's my main. That's the biggest hat I have outside of being a dad. Uh, so yeah, I am a therapist. I've been a therapist for about 10 years now. I teach. I'm an adjunct professor in West Hartford, Connecticut, at University of St. Joseph's, and then I coach there. I help out with that team, and then I coach town lacrosse as well,
So you got your
Middletown.
10,000 hours in. I love that reference that,
Yeah, we're
you,
working.
yeah, no, you got your 10,000 hours in. You're getting after it. But so why don't you, I'll kind of start with when did you start Spiked Performance Consulting, and was it just kind of a passion project for you that started things?
Yeah, so when I had graduated, I remember my mentor, one of the people who was leading the program, was like, you got the keys to the car now, David Marsh. You can do what you want with him. And I had just had my son coming, well, as I was finishing grad school, so it took me a second to sit back and think. But yeah, it was kind of like a brainchild. Like I knew very early that I loved to counsel. I love performance psychology. I love to help people, achieve their goals and chase peak performance um, through their mindset and mental skills. And so I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna do it, there ain't too many options out here for me. I was limited in where I could go at the time. I was living in Boston, so if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have to do it on my own. So it took me a while. I was thinking maybe Top Dog Consulting. One of my nicknames is Spike, so at some point it just hit me like, okay, Spiked Performance Consultant. And from there, I just ran with it. I had my early experiences with college track and field, which I wasn't a track and field guy. So that was a unique experience to really get me out of my shell, my comfort zone, and work with athletes that I didn't typically fully understand in the way of mental performance.
So what were
Because
your
cross
sports
country
growing
track,
up though? Like what were
yeah.
the sports you played?
So growing up, excuse me, a lot of people don't know this, but I was a performer in terms of the arts. So tap dancing. I was been a tap dancer my whole life. Um, and then basketball and football were my other two sports. You know, I played a little college football. I played some JV college basketball in between football and lacrosse.
So
Um,
how early did you start tap dancing though? Because I think like gymnastics,
for
dancing, stuff like that is a huge thing is for you to put your kids in because it kind of builds that dexterity and like the different movements. How old were you when you started tap dancing?
Yeah, I was four,
That
and then I kind of slowed down when I got to college. Like once I picked up college football, it was like okay, it was just hard to
what
keep
were
it
you
around.
playing in college football though? What position?
I was playing, believe it or not, as short as I am, I played wide receiver.
All
I
right,
spent
so
very little time as a slot guy. I ended up playing outside. And
using your footwork and your speed and kind of going, but I mean that speaks to your mental capabilities right there. So how tall are you? Because yeah, you think wide receivers, most of them guys are 6 foot.
yeah, on a good day, I'm 5'7".
All
You
right,
know,
so I'm 5'8". I hear you, bud.
on a good
We
day,
yeah.
I'm 5'6". I'm like 5'6". For real. Most authentically, I'm 5'6". But
That's awesome. So all right, 5'6", but to be
yeah,
able to play a college wide receiver at 5'6", that's a huge, kudos to you, sir, because that's not an easy way to go about things. Like you would think running back or something different might have been a little easier, but no, you're like I'm going to be a wide receiver.
yeah. Most people look at me and say, "Yo, you're a running back, huh? You're a running back, linebacker." Like I've had dudes in the league come to me like, "Huh, you play ball? You lift?" And I'm like, you're around guys that left in a very elite. But no, yeah, it took a lot, Um, it took a lot to be dialed in, as a receiver, especially like running certain types of offenses where you're sprinting and you're coming back to the line. You're sprinting, you're coming back to the line. You're blocking and you come back to the line. You're blocking, and I'm not meant for blocking, realistically. So it definitely took a certain level of grit and a certain level of persistence and commitment to like very specific tenets of elite performance for me to just even be there, you know. And it was tough. It was difficult starting a new program, But those are experiences that I would never give back. I would never try to give back or trade, because not too many people get to go into an environment where you're starting a new program, and there's so many things that comes up with that, that challenge you mentally, for the 4 years. So,
It's
um,
any like the GMs on all these teams, I always say there's so much unappreciated things. So like when you're pioneering your way through it, it is tough because you don't realize scheduling conflicts or even things that like as simple as water bottles. I always go back to because like you see people, they never have like that's always like, oh man, everybody's thirsty. It's like how is that a surprise? But like when you've got so much going on, it's just not something you think about.
yeah, right, right, right. No, big tip of the cap to the GMs out there, because the front end and the back end, it's just a
Yeah.
lot of action nonstop.
You ain't kidding. So when did you get into lacrosse itself? You told me that like most kids in America, we don't start at a young age. Like tap dancing, you started at 4. You were a long ways from that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got into lacrosse when I was 18 or 19, unfortunately. Um, and I was in college and I was in the dorm with lacrosse players and some basketball guys. We were really good friends. And they said, "Listen, come out, man, come out." And it was that was also a new program on top of the football program. So I was like, "Come on!" They needed bodies, frankly, you know. So they pulled me out, and once I got a taste, that was it. That was it, you know. Some days I thought, I used to think about like, oh, what would it have been like if I just quit football and just played lax? But but I loved whichever season I was in. I loved that sport the most at that time. But lacrosse is just something about the spirit and what it does for your spirit. Just the true power of the healing game is the reason why they call it the medicine game.
Yeah, no, there is
I didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time, but unbelievable. You know.
it is. And so your college program, those new college programs, my high school program was a relatively new program. I ran into it. We got beat by everybody. I never won a game until I went and played for Paul Necker, the guy that runs the Utica Yeti. He was my college coach out of the MV in Utica. But I tell you, man, it's a different it's different sport, like you said, once you start playing it. So you play college. How long before you find out what box lacrosse is?
I heard about it in college, but I didn't even see it in college. I didn't think to look it up or any of that. It came up in conversation on like how the Canadians are so good, how they're playing box. Um, and I think I found it probably right after grad school. So probably in 2017 is when I found it. 2016, maybe 2016 is when I found it. I was playing some pickup in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. Um,
That's
and
one of those weird niches, though. You guys have a very strong division. Like every team in that division is good. It's not run by somebody. I mean, a lot of the divisions are like that, but it seems like consistently you guys are sending a different person, like a different group out to the. So, I mean, maybe that's why as you got into track with the Spike Consulting, though, I mean, you're kind of just picking things up as a young man that a lot of people have been playing from a young age. You're kind of built for grabbing the ball and running, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, life has been very interesting, and it's definitely dealt me some interesting cards, and so I'm pretty used to in different situations and different walks of life, just taking what is controllable and working with it as best possible. And that's one of the things also that is the tenet of elite performance. Worrying about those things that you can control and kind of making the best out of them or leveraging them to best benefit what it is you need to accomplish. So yeah, I mean, even like arena football, I spent some time in arena football. I see it on TV. I click by it, click by it, click by it. And then once I got into that world, that kind of captivated me. Me and my son, we got a chance to get into that world. Shout out Jawad and the Massachusetts Pirates for embracing us over there as well. Um, that was a world where it's just captivating. So we try to bring our
It's that
best
kind of
to.
environment where it just like it grabs you in, kind of like the box lacrosse community. Once you're into it, you're like, oh wow, I get why everybody is passionate about that. So what is one thing that like as you're dealing with these different programs? I mean, you played football, but you never played arena football. You never really ran track and field, but did you do those kind of workouts? Like, what is it that you think has helped you? So you told me what you've the last three programs have all won their conference or nationals. So I mean, you're obviously having
um
success, but I mean, like, what is
oh
it
wow,
that
yeah, that's three.
switching the switching up the performance from the different sports, the consistency, I guess, between all sports that maybe it doesn't matter what sport you're playing, it transfers everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, sometimes I zone out. I think I zoned out for half a second there.
I
'Cause I
ramble a
was thinking
lot. You could, yeah.
three. I was thinking three programs. It made me think a little bit, but yeah. Um, I just think sometimes I give this quick 5 minute talk about like elite. I did it yesterday actually. Elite performance and what are some of the tenets of it, and you could carve it a couple of different ways, but I always look at it like, okay, you set your mind a certain way, right? And, like there are no little things. If you want to be good, you want to be great. There are no little things. That's attention to detail. Detail is important. Technique is important. And this is in dance. This is in sport. This is in life. You're running a business. Like details are important. Um, Energy and effort, like they're very controllable, and you need to be putting forth. the utmost at all times. So that is max effort all the time, right? Max effort all the time. And I think the way you the way you couched this or presented this question, this next point goes really well, speaks really well to that. Um, and that is like you are to assume the role of or assume the identity of the role you're playing. So, like if I looked at my own life, for example, I would say like, oh, you're playing football. What does it take to be a good receiver? You need to satisfy all those things. You're playing box lacrosse, which is a little different than field lacrosse. Are you playing defense, transition, whatever? Defense, what does it take to be that guy? Like you have to be a little nasty. You get to be a little nastier in box. Like, and that's something that you need to identify and again, there's no little things, and you need to live it out. You want to be a dad? Okay. Well, what comes with that? Like, what are the things that help you perform well as a dad? You know, um, and that's just crossing quickly over into sport and life. But like, when you step into each of those realms of performance, you need to understand what it takes to be great there, or what it takes to perform as best as you can there, and then commit to that. So I think in my journeys, arena football, box lacrosse, working in college lacrosse, um, figuring out what it takes to be great in that realm of performance, and sticking to the script. Sticking to the script, helping. And oftentimes we know things, but we can use reminders. You know, so
Yeah, it's easy to
there's
say
nothing
you're
wrong
going
with
to do
getting
something.
reminders.
No, I like that. It's basically stick to the fundamentals is, find out what is important and if you can understand, yeah, each of the steps, don't just shoot to be a great player or a great athlete, shoot to for the attributes. Like if you were playing the video game, you're building up the attributes and pay attention to that. I really like how you said that though. That was good because I do ramble a lot and I wasn't even sure if you understood what I was asking you, but yeah, I think you pretty much nailed that one. So, thank you for that. And now why don't you tell me a little bit about the programs that you worked with for the last couple of years and some of those championships and really, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think in doing what I do, I'll never like assume credit, but I noticed over time, like I would just say I try to help people, right? And that's just what I do. It's what I've always done. I'm gonna plug this in real quick 'cause,
Yeah, sorry. So anybody who is watching this, I just kind of surprised him. He thought we were just gonna have a quick phone call. I was like, let's run with scissors. I gotta wait for some spackle to dry. I was spackling my bathroom. I had to insulate it before the winter time. So yeah, no,
that's
but
my guy.
yeah, this worked awesome. So I really do appreciate you taking the time. I like what you got going on, and I'll let you get back to what you were explaining.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. So yeah, no, I just happened to notice, maybe like a month ago, like wow, every time, at least since 2016, post college, all like my first time with a program, I've ended up winning the championship, at least the conference or the league championship. And coincidence, maybe I don't know. I'm not big on social media, so I'm not as big as I need to be. I don't post a lot of stuff. I need to get into that, but I noticed like, okay, so arena football, my first go around in arena football, um, won the United Bowl, and that was already a great organization. It was already a great. I want to note that it was a great organization already. They were doing great things. They've been to the playoffs, so I just try to contribute where I can. Um, IBLA, Cambridge Nor'easters, our first go around, went out to Ohio. I mean, not Ohio. Minneapolis, or Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even know what
Won
box
a national.
lacrosse was when the IBLA was a thing. I only found it since the Firewolves moved to Albany.
Oh wow, yeah. We went out there and won. My first year with University of St. Joseph's, again another growing, promising organization. Again, coincidence? Maybe. I don't know. Last year, they went to the championship the year before I got here. Last year, they were able to, or we were able to, win the championship and go ahead and play 2 rounds in the NCAA's. Losing to, of course, Salisbury. Which again, if you want to be the best, if you want to be good or great, you want to be in the room with bigger fish. You want to be in the room with the bigger dogs, and so um, it's great to just be able to contribute to such organizations. But each first year experiences, each one was, you know, best outcome possible, So, and that was probably all in the last, I don't know, since 2017. So, the last like
So
it's coming
with
up on some years.
COVID kind of happening and that kind of, shot a lot of the big group sports into the toilet. I mean, what did you notice as far as from, I would say, more of a professional standpoint of how much everybody needed to have these events where they were hanging out and playing together and competing against each other and kind of have these group common goals to accomplish. And I mean, I think that was a huge thing that was missed during COVID.
Yeah, I think anytime when you see a great division, um, it's important to find ways to unify. It's important to find ways to remind us of like our humanity and what's important and what recharges our batteries and what's valuable. And so, um, my class that I teach, I always say like sport is one of the greatest unifiers if we leverage it appropriately, and even if we don't inadvertently, it's one of the greatest unifiers. Team sports. Um, so I think it's like wildly important to be able to provide opportunities, and even through your adult years, it's wildly important to be able to compete or to be able to at least participate. 'Cause there's different levels of competition, but to be able to participate in a collective effort. There's just so many benefits from physical, physiological benefits to, social, emotional benefits, just to physical activity, let alone being part of a collective, being part of a community, having that sense of connectedness and belongingness, just to step away from your everyday life because life doesn't get easier necessarily as the years go on, so it's good to have a buffer. It's good to have something that, recharges and rejuvenates the spirit. And I think it's important for us to use and leverage the beautiful vehicle of sport that way, as a catalyst, as um, the back race, to our
The
everyday life if we
the nice
can.
thing about sports is everybody can participate. Like no matter what your whatever if abilities, disabilities, however you want to look at yourself. Like my hip is shot, so I can't really do much, so I do this. And what it yeah, no, as far as like the mental health goes, having, feeling like you're doing something. I think everybody needs that sense of accomplishment. Like you have to it's good for you to have little goals and beat them and break things. It kind of helps us. No, I love that. That's why the more I was reaching into this, you're the first podcast I've done in quite a while because I am usually kind of busy doing whatever is interesting me at the time. And Spiked Performance was what was interesting me. I was like, I really got to talk to this guy because I think it's a huge underrated part of the sport. Like people like to think you could just show up and physically go through the motions, but I think what makes people great box lacrosse players and helps transfer to the field game is because your IQ goes up as you're doing it.
Yeah, without question. That's a great point. Like you gotta play it to get better at it, without a question. And you gotta have a certain level of mindfulness and intentionality to it too. Like how's the ball coming off the boards? How you playing that? Like, where you positioning your feet. Like it's a different game than field lacrosse, and you really do have to get your reps in to get better at it. So box lacrosse is an unbelievable sport.
Yeah,
Unbelievable,
no,
unbelievable,
it's crazy. So
powerful
you
sport.
got into the arena football. I got to ask you, all these sports you've done, what do you think is the most challenging mentally as far as preparation, just like getting into something because you're either like track, I would imagine is a huge mental preparation thing because I mean, yes, there's a lot of it. You have to think about what you're doing, but you don't have an opponent other than yourself. You're competing against the clock, like as far as some of these teams competing, how much do you take into that like competition level?
Yeah, I mean, I think like so arena football is obviously like professional versus like college track and field, which there are plenty of college track and field athletes that train as a professional, right? But I think some sports come with their unique challenges. So like for arena football, it's like you got guys who have played in the NFL, they've had average careers, some who above average careers, and they're coming back down, trying to get back up. So there's different stressors that come with it. I think if I were to strip all that away, surprisingly, I've seen the most challenges in track and field in cross country, probably more so on the cross country side. Um, but again, that could be unique to some of my experiences with the college campus, with the
Well, I mean,
culture of the
it's
team.
how long can you
Um,
embrace the suck is the whole idea of that sport. So yeah, no, I'll give you that one. Like they're literally I don't understand it. I would run for exercise because it made me better at my sport. The people who run for the sake of running, and especially the cross country, cross country does make more sense to me than running distance around a track. But the no, it's all I feel like that's all mental because it's just you and yourself and the clock.
it's for me, it is purely mental. I mean, you obviously are racing against time, especially when you think about preparation and practice and how it's set up. Like you're racing against the time, you're racing against imaginary you. Um, so I mean, it does offer the unique opportunity to really tap into your mindset and your ability to enhance mindfulness, employ mindfulness. Um, but yeah, I mean, my experience in college track and field it was special. It was a good time. I'll never forget it, and I'll always recall the challenges that you know were put forth. Um, but again, I think
Did you ever deal
different
with
sports.
the pole vaulters? Did they have a pole vaulting team?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
we did have a pole
that was
vaulted.
I did that in track. I ran track until just to stay in shape for hockey until I found out what lacrosse was in high school, and then I stopped track. But I mean, that's another one of those things where they're literally just pushing that bar and having faith that that pole is going to launch you into the air. Like looking back at it now, I'm like, I would never try anything like that as an adult. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's something else. I mean, really, that's when you talk about trusting your training. Like that's trusting your training. I mean, if the pole snaps, it snaps. I've seen it before, but
Yeah.
it's the exception. But talk about trusting your training come competition day. You put all the work in, the hay's in the barn, and
Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. But I guess where is the best way for people to contact you, or where is your preferred method of contact if programs or people would like some training?
yeah, there's a contact us link on the website. My phone number should be on the website as well. Spikeconsulting@gmail.com is also the email. Um, Time to update. Maybe it's time to update some pics.
Yeah.
That was my first team right there. Yeah, great people.
Is that
Great
the
people.
track team?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. No,
That
it's
was my
interesting.
first group.
Yeah, it's an interesting sport. Like you talk about and that's why I said I didn't really count it because you're only competing against yourself there. You're not planning for an opponent. You're really just, I mean, yes, you are, but not really. At the end of the day, it's just you and the clock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's always some little gray area, like on this turn I'm getting elbowed, or you know, um, getting psyched out by somebody who's like the way they're prepping for the start of a race. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's always you against you, and that's how you want to tease out the best in yourself. You can control you and only you. So,
Absolutely. Well, thanks. And there will be links in the description for the Spike Consulting, and then you just click the contact, shoot them an email if you're looking for, any ideas for programs or whatever. Like I said, I love this part of it. Nobody ever really talks about the mental preparation of sports, which is honestly, envision. I mean, it goes from as simple as envisioning, but just hearing you say, like, all right, if you want to be the best transition player, what do you consider the best attributes to be the best trade. Like it's just the thought and the being cognizant of what you're actually practicing for, what you're working on.
right on, right on.
I love it. So yeah, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, your email and the website will be linked in the description. Thanks again. I really, really appreciate the time.
Hey, likewise, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please consider joining our channel membership and like and subscribe, leave some comments, all that fun stuff.